Mike Murphy from Lervik.
That's correct.
Long history as a brewer.
Right. A little. It gets longer every year, I guess. There was a time when I felt like a newbie, and those years have passed. Mm-hmm. So I start to feel like I'm old school sometimes.
You're one of the founders of craft beer movement in Scandinavia, at least Copenhagen.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, that's nice. Nice to hear someone think of me that way.
Yeah,
I was there when it was starting to boom, I guess. So it's kind of like in Europe. I'm doing the same thing now in Norway. It's sort of taking off as I came in, and believe it or not, before I was in Copenhagen, I was in Italy, and sort of the same thing happened there. It's kind of like I've been surfing this rising wave of craft beer through Europe. So pretty soon there won't be any more countries to go to. But I'm pretty focused at settling down where I'm at now. I'm quite happy, and I've got a family now, and I'm getting older. It's time to put my feet back a little bit more. So.
You've been doing some traveling all through Europe, or from Italy, UK, Denmark, some in Sweden. I think a lot of the viewers are really curious about the view on Swedish craft beer, or the craft beer culture in Scandinavia.
The situation?
Yeah, the situation.
The situation.
The beers, the people.
The way I see it, the way I see it is, it's probably the best craft beer scene in Europe, between the three countries, or let's say Sweden and Denmark. There's a few other great countries that are coming up on the radar now. Italy and Barcelona, or Spain are also moving hard. Germany hasn't quite kicked in yet, but I imagine they're going to come soon, and when they do, it's going to be big. Right around the corner, I would believe. England has really made a lot of changes in the last few years. It's kind of hard when you have this embedded beer culture, that stretches back generations, like in Germany, but in England. But Scandinavia, they have a great brewing history, Denmark especially. And when I was working in Denmark, I felt like Denmark was ahead of the curve out of the Scandinavian countries, not looking at Norway. Norway was off the radar. And I went to Sweden for the first time in, I think, 2006 or 7, and I could see that they were hungry and they were just getting started, and there was a lot of similar things happening that I saw at the very start of it all at other places, in Denmark. Some bad beers that were getting recognized and acknowledged because they were just different than what the average beers were. So they were getting, they had to have some growing pains. I can see that Sweden has far surpassed what happened in Denmark, because they're still growing, and the craft beer from other countries like America is still coming in hard. New beers all the time, and your beer culture is really taking off to another level. Denmark sort of stalled out, I think, in 2010-ish, from what I can see. I mean, there's still some great breweries and beer being produced in Denmark, and it's just I don't see any development. In Sweden, there's still a lot of people opening breweries. A lot of it becomes like in America, you see in the 90s the beer revolution, and then it sort of peaks, and then it sort of flattened out. And then you would think that it can't get any better. It's flattened out. That's because that's where it's supposed to be. Then all of a sudden it resurges again, and then it resurges again after that. And the quality has to keep up with the competition, and you see that in Sweden now.
Do you see like a saturation in the near future?
Oversaturation?
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, there's going to be some competition. There's going to be some drop-offs. There's going to be some new people show up that are really talented. There's going to be some people that probably shouldn't be there. They're staying there, and so it's typical. It's just consumers. What kind of consumers you have. It's all about the consumers. So
they're the ones paying for the beer.
Right. Some of them are more, I want to say, empowered. I like an empowered consumer, one that that knows what they want, and wants something a little bit special or has a more selective taste. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be when they buy my beer, but I would like someone to think about what they purchase and why, who they're supporting and why.
Sure. If you're gonna drink a beer, at least make it a good one.
Right. You know.
Another thing, Italy, they've been growing lately, and they have a different take on beer. They do pale ales and those American-style craft beers, but they also made craft beer their own, making
that was a big goal
chestnut beer, and in Scandinavia, it's kind of we don't see that too much. You have any ideas for making what would go well in a Scandinavian-style beer, or?
I see a little bit of it. It's just not as fun. I mean, you see a lot of these spice beers or herbal beers made with say Porsa or Hyleblomst or
juniper,
cloudberries, things like that, and they're fun. But there's just, I guess the consumers here, they like hops, you know. So it's always going to win. But you do see it. Same thing in Italy. Pale ales are much more prevalent now than they were 5 years ago. And when I was brewing there, and nobody was brewing a pale ale except for me. And they told me I had big balls to make that beer, you know, because at that time Italians didn't have any knowledge about craft beer, and I think that the brewers that are working there, they're working really hard to develop their own style. They feel like they want to have their own identity. That's an Italian thing, you know. They're very proud, but they still have a love for most beer styles. And a lot of the more successful craft brewers in Italy, they design their beers and their look of their products to sell towards wine drinkers. So if you notice, the bottles are very beautiful, 75 CL with capsules and beautiful logos and emblems on the bottles. So they spend a lot of money on the packaging. Sometimes I say cheap beer in expensive bottles.
What's the future in Leavik? What will we
right
see
now?
More of your beer in Sweden?
Yeah. Well, I would hope so. I mean, that's the plan. But there's a lot of competition. We're still a small company, and it's really hard to get out and push. You know, we have to be selective how we do it and where we do it, and who we do it with. And I'm not completely in charge of all those decisions, but I would, my goal is to grow the brewery to at least 4.5 million liters per year. And in order to do that, I would have to sell more in Scandinavia. So, it's not gonna. There's plenty of growth. There's plenty of room for growth everywhere. I mean, even in my own region, in Rogaland, in Norway, it's 18 million liters a year of beer sold, and you can see a big shift towards craft beer just in that area. So there's going to be more room to grow, and hopefully I can be at the top when it gets there.